It was Christmas night when my parents kicked me out, no warning, no mercy. Just a suitcase, the snow, and their front door slamming shut. The cold bit at my skin before I even made it off the porch. Snowflakes clung to my eyelashes, the kind of thick Vermont snow that soaked through your jeans before you even reached the sidewalk. The suitcase wheel snagged on the first step, and I had to yank it free with a jerk that sent me stumbling into the frozen lawn. Just hours ago, I'd stepped into that house expecting warmth, maybe even comfort. After all, what else is Christmas for when you've lost your job and your apartment within the same week? I thought family was where you landed when everything else collapsed. But clearly, I'd forgotten whose house this was. Erin had once told a coworker, "My parents may not say, 'I love you,' but at least they let me come home." She was wrong. Dinner had already been plated when I arrived: sliced ham, mashed potatoes, green beans in a crystal bowl. I offered to help with the dishes, maybe set the table, maybe just be useful. Carol, arms crossed over her ugly Christmas sweater, had glanced at my duffel bag and muttered, "So you're just staying here again?" I had smiled then, awkwardly. "Just until I get things back on track." "Only a couple weeks." Richard behind her gave one of his trademark scoffs. "That's what you said last time. And the time before." I ignored it. I told myself it was just stress. The holidays, the weather, the fact that we hadn't spoken in months. Maybe they were hurting too. But it got worse. Carol followed me into the kitchen, watched like a hawk while I loaded the dishwasher, then clicked her tongue. "Don't just throw everything in there. Honestly, Erin, do you ever do anything right?" That was the first cut. Not deep, not fatal. Just the kind that reminded you nothing had changed. Richard added his own slice a few minutes later. Freeloaders always act like they're helping. It's a way to distract from the fact they're living off everyone else. I froze, plate in hand. I didn't come here to freeload. He stood up slow and steady like he always did when a lecture was coming. "You came here with no job. No plan. Again." "What exactly do you think this is, a shelter?" Carol chimed in, sharp as tinsel. "We let you stay last time because I was sick. You promised it was temporary. But all you did was complain about your manager and sleep in until noon. I was working late nights." "We're not doing this again," Richard snapped. "You've got until midnight. Pack your things. Find somewhere else." Something in my chest caved in. "Dad, it's snowing. I don't even have a car." "Figure it out." My hands trembled as I zipped my bag. They didn't help. They didn't even come to the door. When I reached for my phone charger in the hallway, Carol stepped between me and the outlet. "That stays. It's my charger." She didn't move, so I walked out without it. The door slammed behind me like a gavel. Cold air rushed up my sleeves. The house glowed behind me, multicolored string lights blinking across the porch, plastic reindeer on the lawn. A winter wonderland from the outside. Inside, it was all rot. I was halfway to the sidewalk when I heard it. The door creaked open again. I turned, hoping God help me, hoping that maybe they'd change their minds. Instead, Richard stepped onto the porch with the charger in one hand. He tossed it into the snow behind me like it was contaminated. "This house isn't your shelter anymore," he barked. The porch light flicked off as the door slammed shut. I watched their porch light blink off behind me, and something inside me broke, but something else clicked into place. That night, I used my last $50 to book a dingy motel on the edge of town. One bar of soap. One threadbare blanket. A broken vending machine in the hallway that spat out expired chips. I curled into that bed, still wearing my coat, and stared at the ceiling until morning. But I didn't cry. Not once. They thought I'd beg to come back. Instead, I logged into the one thing they forgot: I controlled their money. The motel room stank of mildew and microwaved noodles, but the Wi-Fi worked. I sat on the creaky bed, knees pulled up, laptop balanced against them. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as the first rays of December 26th crept through the dirty blinds. My breath still misted in the air. Apparently, the heater was for decoration. They had tossed me out like garbage. But they'd forgotten one critical detail during Mom's chemo last year. I'd taken over managing all their finances. Every online portal, every bank password. Carol had insisted. I trust no one but Erin to manage our accounts. That trust was about to cost them. I pulled up the credit union login. Two-factor authentication texted me. A second later, I was in. Savings checking credit cards all right there. My name still sat quietly under joint account holder. They'd never bothered to remove it. My heart pounded not from guilt, but adrenaline. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was survival. I clicked into the credit cards first. The Chase account was almost maxed, and Richard had opened a second Amex for emergencies last spring. I enabled transaction alerts. Then I scrolled to the Settings tab and clicked Freeze Card. 1, 2, 3. A small thrill bubbled in my chest as the digital lock snapped into place. Let's see how they liked surviving without me now. But I wasn't done. I opened the Dropbox folder. They probably thought I'd deleted taxes 2022. A spreadsheet blinked to life. Password pineapple salad 99. Carol's idea of a strong security measure. I hadn't touched it in months. Everything was still here. Names, balances, bills, mortgage autopays. And there, tucked in the bottom, a line item for a secret fund Richard had been siphoning to a personal account in Texas. I'd flagged it back then, but said nothing. Now I took screenshots. Then I opened messages and tapped on the name I hadn't used in a year. Jasmine. Hey, you up? A reply pinged back in seconds. Always. You okay? Not really. I have a question. About joint accounts. I explained the situation carefully, just the facts. Jasmine had always been sharp. Back in law school, she was the kind of person who read court transcripts for fun. Her response was fast and fierce. You're legally covered. If your name's on the account, you can freeze it. If they try to press charges, it'll blow back on them. What about, I don't know, financial abuse? You could make a case, especially if you supported them financially or if they manipulated you using money. I stared at the message. She followed up. Do you want me to draft something? I hesitated. Maybe. Then, without warning, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was an automated chase alert. Declined transaction, Carol Bryant, $297.43, department store. A pause. Another buzz. Declined transaction. Richard Bryant, 52 Poil, 11 Shell gas station. Another. Declined transaction, Carol Bryant, 7690 grocery market. I bit my lip. The glee was uncomfortable but real. They were out there right now fumbling for explanations. Probably blaming the bank, yelling at customer service. Carol throwing her scarf down in a checkout line, Richard pounding the steering wheel in the gas station lot. I closed the laptop with a satisfying snap. I'd slept in a motel while they strung up lights and played family. I'd begged for help and got a cold sidewalk. They expected tears. Instead, they'd get locked cards and declined payments. Let's see how they like surviving Christmas without me now. I didn't just cut them off. I wanted the world to know why. The apartment smelled like chai and legal textbooks. Jasmine's couch wasn't exactly luxury, but after 2 nights in a motel that reeked of wet carpet and regret, it felt like heaven. I sat cross-legged with my laptop propped on a throw pillow, the glow from the screen lighting up the tired rage in my face. I hadn't slept. Not really. But I'd planned. Oh, I had planned. Richard's voice played on loop in my head. Don't air family business in public. Right. You should have thought of that before hurling my suitcase onto the porch like I was a stray dog. The cursor blinked at the top of a blank Facebook post. I cracked my knuckles. They kicked me out on Christmas? Here's what they didn't tell you. I paused. Let that line hang in the air like a match above dry kindling. Then I began typing. The post grew like a wildfire. Paragraphs turned to receipts. I uploaded screenshots, medical invoices in my name, utilities I'd paid when Carol was sick. I added a photo of the family Christmas card, me smiling, airbrushed between them, and then below it, the motel receipt dated December 25th. Then came the recording. It was scratchy. A voice memo I'd accidentally captured months ago. Carol's voice was sharp, brittle. Erin's too independent. That's why she'll never fit in. She acts like we owe her something. I stared at that waveform, then hit upload. Jasmine peeked over my shoulder, mug in hand. You sure about this? I nodded. She didn't ask again. The post went up at 10:42 a.m. By 10:48, it had 30 shares. By 11:02, it was climbing toward 200. At 11:30, my phone buzzed with a Twitter notification. Hey, are you the girl whose parents kicked her out on Christmas? I read your post. That's insane. Stay strong. Another. Then another. TikTok duets started showing up. Someone read my post over piano music. Another stitched it with the caption, "The holidays aren't merry for everyone." Jasmine watched it unfold like a courtroom drama. You just went nuclear, she muttered. I kept scrolling, not out of vanity, just disbelief. Hundreds of comments. People I didn't know. People who did know me. One DM hit different. It was from Lucas, a classmate from undergrad. We hadn't talked since graduation. Hey, saw your post? My dad used to pull the same crap. Gaslight me, cut me off, then play victim when I stood up for myself. Just wanted you to know you're not crazy. I blinked hard, typed a reply. Thank you. More messages poured in. Some told their own stories. Some just said, I believe you. Others offered a place to stay, a coffee, a hug from 3 states away. I was halfway through writing a follow-up post when Jasmine let out a gasp. Oh my God. Look. She turned her phone toward me. A YouTube thumbnail flashed across the screen. Girl exposes toxic parents on Christmas. Justice or drama, 1.1 million views. A local creator I'd seen before, big following, commentary videos. He played the audio clip, then cut to himself nodding solemnly. She paid their bills while they shamed her for asking for help. That's not just toxic, that's calculated. The comments, brutal. On my side, one said, that man belongs in the Hall of Shame Dads. Another, Carol's the reason therapists stay employed. I almost laughed. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, the name on the screen made my chest clench. Jason, my ex. The last person I expected to hear from. You didn't deserve any of that. Want to talk? I stared at it. For a second, my thumb hovered. Then I hit block. Just like that. No regrets. No looking back. I turned to Jasmine and smiled. Ready for the next step, she raised her mug like a toast. Burn it all down, babe. My phone rang. Unknown caller. I picked up and heard my mother's voice shaking. We need to talk. I didn't answer right away. The café buzzed faintly in the background, steam hissing from espresso machines, hushed conversations layered over holiday jazz. I looked up and caught Jasmine's eyes from across the room. She gave a slight nod. Steady. They're only calling because they've got something to lose, she'd warned me yesterday after my post hit 2 million views. She was right. Fine, I said. Neutral place. 1 hour. I chose a cafe near the courthouse, not too fancy, not too grimy. Just neutral. Just public enough. The kind of place where people behaved. The cold had gotten sharper since the 25th, slicing through the air like truth finally catching up. I wore black, simple sweater, dark jeans, no makeup, no armor but my composure. They were late. Carol arrived first, 10 minutes past the hour, wearing a faux fur coat like she was headed to a charity gala. Red lipstick. Diamond earrings. Like appearances could erase everything. Sweetheart, she said, arms outstretched. I didn't stand. Sit. She blinked, faltered slightly, then slid into the booth across from me. Richard followed shortly after. Aviators indoors, cheeks flushed from cold or shame. Hard to tell. He didn't say a word. Just sat next to her, legs wide, posture rigid like a man used to commanding rooms. I kept my hands folded in my lap. I didn't owe them a thing. Not warmth, not explanation. Carol started in a tone I knew too well, soft, syrupy, sickly. This whole thing has gotten out of hand. You know how people twist stories online. You've always been sensitive, Erin, but it's not like you. I stared. She tried again. We didn't kick you out. You left in anger. You misunderstood. Did I misunderstand? I asked when Dad threw my charger into the snow. Richard finally spoke. You want to talk facts? Fine. You embarrassed us. You humiliated your own family in front of the world. People at church, at work, they're calling me, asking if we abused our daughter. I tilted my head. Did you lie to them or just say nothing and let the silence work in your favor like you always do? He leaned forward. You ungrateful little careful? I said, quiet. You're on a public street, in a cafe full of witnesses. Carol reached across the table. Erin, honey, we're family. We may have disagreed, but airing private matters online, that's not love. That's revenge. I'm not here for revenge, I said and pulled out the printed spreadsheet from my coat. I slid it across the table. Carol's hand hovered above it, unsure. Richard snatched it instead. What's this? Every dollar I covered from 2019 to 2023. Rent, prescriptions, groceries, utility bills, the months I paid off the second mortgage without asking for reimbursement. He flipped through the pages. His jaw twitched. Convenient numbers. They match your bank statements, I replied, deadpan, and your email confirmations. You both trusted me with your finances when Mom got sick. Remember, Carol looked like she might protest, but then Jasmine walked over. She was calm, poised. Dressed like court was her natural habitat. Hello, she said, setting an envelope on the table. Carol. Richard. Richard bristled. Who the hell are you? Her attorney. Carol's lips parted, speechless. Jasmine didn't wait. She took out a folded sheet from the envelope and read aloud, voice crisp. This letter serves as formal notice. The joint account originally managed by Erin Caldwell is now under court supervision, pending further investigation into coercion and financial exploitation. Effective immediately, you are not to access, request assistance from, or attempt to coerce Erin into any financial dealings. Carol blinked furiously. You're having us declared abusers? Jasmine didn't flinch. We're asserting boundaries, Carol. Legal ones. Carol burst into tears. Not the silent kind, the performative, shoulder-shaking sobs she always pulled when cornered. I gave you everything, she cried. I was sick, and you made me your accountant, your therapist, your scapegoat, I said coldly. But never your daughter. Richard stood abruptly. You're both sick. He slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware rattle. A barista stepped over. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down or leave. Richard sneered at her, then at us, then stormed off. Carol followed, still weeping, still looking over her shoulder like we'd call her back. We didn't. As they stormed off, I realized I wasn't trembling. I was smiling. I didn't think it would spiral this far. But then the news vans showed up. The morning of the 29th broke with a knock at Jasmine's door, light, polite, but with the weight of cameras behind it. She peeked through the peephole, swore under her breath, then turned to me. They're here. I'd just finished a bowl of cereal. I hadn't checked my phone yet. Didn't need to. My name was already trending again. The story wasn't just online anymore. It was on television. I peeked out the window and saw them, 3 vans, 2 camera crews, and 1 unfortunate neighbor from back home, in a down jacket, being asked to say a few words about the Caldwell family. Later that day, the clip would go viral. She paid their bills, ran their house while her mom was sick, and they still kicked her out on Christmas. Erin supported that house. She deserves better. It wasn't revenge, it was resonance. Jasmine turned off the TV with a sharp flick of the remote. They'll be waiting outside their house all day. You should probably stay in. She wasn't wrong. Carol and Richard were now minor local celebrities for all the wrong reasons. One outlet had reported on potential financial misconduct after picking up the spreadsheet screenshots from my original post. Another linked to older property records that still had my name on joint accounts. The fallout was no longer just digital. They're being investigated, Jasmine said, scrolling through her phone. Fraud, financial coercion, temporary account freezes while it's sorted. I stared at the ceiling. I didn't mean for this. You meant to tell the truth, she replied. The rest isn't on you. That afternoon, a message lit up my inbox from Lucas. Lucas D. Hey, I just moved out. Officially, rented a studio. Couldn't have done it without your story. Thank you. Attached was a picture, his suitcase by a cheap bed, bare white walls, a lamp on the floor. It wasn't much, but it was freedom. I felt it like a pulse in my chest. I didn't know Lucas well. We'd had maybe 3 classes together. But trauma has a strange way of turning strangers into kin. I hope it feels like peace. He responded with a heart emoji, and that was enough. Later, while I scrolled through Reddit threads dissecting the situation, Jasmine emerged from her room looking serious. My parents' lawyer just called me. I blinked. What? They want to negotiate privately, behind the scenes. Settle things, bury the story, restore their image before the banks or the press go deeper. I stared at her. She nodded slowly. They don't care about you. They care about exposure. I didn't reply right away. Part of me wanted to disappear. Maybe delete the post, shut off the comments, let it all fade. But Jasmine sat next to me and looked me in the eye. This isn't revenge, she said. It's record. You wrote the truth. Let it stand. I breathed deep. A few hours later, a message came from a national talk show. Prime time. They wanted me to appear live. I said no, but I sent them a video. It was simple, just me in Jasmine's living room looking into the camera. No makeup, no script. I spoke for 3 minutes straight. Calm. Honest. My parents kicked me out on Christmas night, I said. But this isn't just about me. It's about a pattern where we're told to stay quiet, not shame the family, to keep things behind closed doors. That silence helps no one. So I spoke. That's all. I closed my laptop and didn't look back. The video aired. It didn't go viral, but it didn't need to. It existed. It echoed. That night, I sat on Jasmine's couch watching the snowfall blur the city lights outside the window. My phone was quiet for once. No calls, no comments, just stillness. I used to be afraid of being alone. Now I was alone and unafraid. On New Year's Eve, I stood in my new apartment. Just me, one chair, and a window facing east. The light was dim, but it was mine. A narrow beam from a dusty bulb above. Beige walls, one twin mattress still wrapped in plastic, and a single chair I'd found at a thrift store for $15. There were no fairy lights, no champagne glasses, no celebration music. But it felt more like home than any room I'd ever slept in. The radiator clanked in the corner, and I pulled my sweater tighter, walking barefoot across the creaky floor. In the windowsill, condensation fogged up the glass, but I could still make out the faint outline of rooftops and snowbanks below. The sun hadn't fully set yet, just hovered, casting a quiet golden haze over everything. An unopened envelope sat on the counter. It was from the bank. I stared at it for a moment before tearing it open slowly, carefully, like it could somehow change the air in the room. Dear Ms. Caldwell, This letter confirms that you are no longer legally responsible for any joint financial agreements with Richard and Carol Caldwell. All ties have been dissolved effective immediately. My breath hitched. I wasn't sure what I'd expected. Relief, tears. Nothing came, just a slow, quiet exhale. I folded the letter and tucked it into a small tin box that held only a few other things: my spare house key, the motel receipt from Christmas night, and a photo of Jasmine and me from college, arms slung over each other on a campus bench, grinning like fools. Next to the tin sat a picture frame empty. I'd brought it here without knowing why, but today I set it upright on the shelf. One day I'd fill it. I didn't know with what yet. Maybe a dog. Maybe friends. Maybe family of my own choosing. But for now, it would stay empty, a placeholder for something I hadn't lost but hadn't found yet. My phone buzzed. A new email. Subject: I moved out. It was from Lucas. Erin, I made it out. Signed my own lease today. It's not much, bare walls, secondhand table, but I feel like I can finally breathe. I just wanted to say thank you again. L. I smiled, blinking away the tightness behind my eyes. The screen lit up again. A text this time. Jasmine. You did it. Simple. No fanfare. No confetti. But it meant more than anything anyone else could have said. There was a box on the table I hadn't noticed earlier. I must have missed it when I came back with groceries. Brown paper, no label, just my name in Jasmine's handwriting. Inside was a wooden plaque, simple, smooth, polished, engraved in silver, not a victim, a witness who spoke. I held it in my hands for a long time. Outside, someone set off a firework too early. A soft crackle, then a burst of green and gold shimmered in the fading twilight. I walked to the window, watching as others followed, red, blue, white, one by one, painting the sky. The apartment didn't echo anymore. It felt still, warm, quiet. As the first firework lit up the sky, I whispered to no one, "Happy New Me." They threw her out into the cold, never imagining she'd turn silence into strength. But when the tables turned, it wasn't rage that spoke, it was proof, precision, and the power of truth. Justice doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it arrives quietly, with frozen accounts, broken illusions, and a woman who refused to be erased. Because when injustice meets relentless courage, the final verdict echoes louder than any excuse. No lie stands forever. The truth waits, but it never forgets. If this story resonated with you, like, share, and subscribe, and comment 1 if you've ever felt this kind of betrayal too.